And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. That's Tom Fornelli. I'm Chip Patterson. You see the sirens. You know that there is a reason for an emergency podcast. And the breaking news is that South Carolina and Will Muschamp have parted ways. Specifically, Will Muschamp has been relieved of his duties. Mike Bobo, the new offensive coordinator, has been named the interim head coach. Tom, we've got a lot of different layers to get this. There's, what does this mean for Will Muschamp? How do we look at his time with the Gamecocks? Where does South Carolina go from here? What does this mean for the coaching carousel in general? This is an SEC job. This is a Power 5 job that is now open and can get things spinning in a time when we thought it might be a little bit of a quiet carousel. But I guess specifically, Will Muschamp at this point, is the timing something that surprised you?
No, I'm not surprised by it happening. I mean, we've been talking about the possibility of it happening for a while, and there were rumors, all day. Because if you check his Twitter account, there was no mention of South Carolina this afternoon in it anymore, which started the rumors. But I'm not surprised by it. I'm still a little put off by it. Like it makes sense to me in a normal year with a 2-5 start to fire a coach that was kind of already on the hot seat going into the year.
Sure.
But in 2020, with everything that's going on in the world, the conditions that you're having to play this season, and I'm not saying you can't fire Muschamp after the season if you want to, but why do you have to do it now? Because what are you hoping to accomplish? Is the hope that Mike Bobo can turn it around and get you to 5-5? Like, you think that, Hugh Freeze, if Hugh Freeze or whoever your top target is going to be gone and off the market in 3 weeks when your season comes to an end? I just don't get it. I know they're going to bring up the idea, well, we wanted to be the first on the market. Okay, well, if you're going after Urban Meyer, maybe it makes sense to be the first in the market. But if you're going after a sitting coach, it's not like this is some high school recruit who's going to be like, well, I'm going to keep you guys in my top 5 because you were the first to offer me. You guys believed in me from the start. Hugh Freeze isn't going to take the job because you came first. Hugh Freeze is going to sit there and wait for the offer that he feels is best for him. And that's the offer he's going to go. And if it's South Carolina, it won't matter when you fired Muschamp. So I just think that optically, to fire your coach during this season, considering everything that everybody has had to go through just to get this season played at all, it's just, I don't know. It really rubs me the wrong way. I understand the decision, and I don't think South Carolina is making a mistake firing Will Muschamp. It's just, you could have waited 3 weeks and it wouldn't have made a damn bit of difference unless Hugh Freeze really does leave Liberty during the middle of the regular season. And if Hugh Freeze or whoever, yeah,
we have seen Scotty Walden. Yeah, we've seen Scotty Walden leave Southern Miss to be able to take over Austin Peay in the middle. So we know that those Zoom the Zoom interviews are allowing for very, very fluid coaching situations.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, I guess it's, for me, it's like the dichotomy. There's a big word. It's like earlier today, like the governor of Michigan issued a new statement saying that Michigan, like the universities and schools, are not allowed to have in-person classes anymore. They're going to let them have games like football, basketball. They can't have fans in attendance. But like an hour after one state is announcing, because of the numbers and the cases that are rising across the country, that they're canceling in-person classes, at South Carolina, the biggest thing on the priority board is we got to fire our coach. So it's one of those weird things. It's like, and I understand they're separate things. And if you're Ray Tanner, your job isn't to worry about, the world at large. It's just Like right now, of all the things you should be concerned about doing with your program, I don't think firing the coach should be the top of the list. Like I said, it could have waited 3 weeks. You'd have been fine.
So, First from Ray Tanner, after a thorough assessment of our football program, we have decided to make a change with the head football coach. I appreciate all that Will Muschamp has done for our program and wish him and his family the best moving forward. I believe our program will be well served by Coach Bobo as the interim head coach as we search for a new leader for Gamecock football. I think that Will Muschamp, and they did say they're going to begin the search immediately. I think that Will Muschamp has helped South Carolina level up on some infrastructure ways. He's gotten a lot of investment in facilities. They've done a lot of sort of behind the scenes work to tighten things up. I think it is a better job when Will Muschamp left than where he is here. But I can't help but think, to your recruiting point. So Ray Tanner was the South Carolina baseball coach for decades, won 2 national championships, and now he's the athletic director. And, former coach, shout out Smithfield, former NC State baseball player. Like maybe he is thinking about this a little bit on the like recruiting side, where he's thinking, okay, there's not going to be a lot of jobs potentially that change hands. And, we had already reached a point with our university president and with our board where we were not happy with the on-field results that Will Muschamp has provided. So maybe they are just trying to get the first one in and just to go ahead and start sending the signal to say, we are going to be a player at the table. We are not going to sit around on this. We're not going to waffle for a long time. Whoever wants to be that big splash SEC Power 5 hire, we are a suitor for it. I feel like when I think the timing stinks, it's because it's a Sunday. It's been a long weekend. The Masters took up a lot of my time.
Well,
like it was just, I was like, oh man, but that's only my personal gripes. In terms of timing, I can rock with the idea that Ray Tanner is getting competitive and he's saying, we are going to go ahead and cut ties right now. And we are going to be the first one for any one of these coaches, Hugh Freeze or someone else who might be in the mix there.
Well, and also to be fair, there could be another reason that we're not privy to for this happening.
Sure.
Because, but again, I don't, it could be personality conflict. It could have been something happened. And it's just, but if this was, I still think that this is just because like you went into Saturday saying to yourself, if you're Ray Tanner, okay, if we don't beat, the Rebels, it's done. It's over. And then they lose that game and it's like, all right, now it's time to move on. If that's the case, it's like, come on, dude, your team wasn't going anywhere this year as it is. You were already off to a terrible start. It's not like you were going to turn things around and compete for anything. So
they beat Auburn. Auburn's a top 25 team. There's a weird Will Muschamp covers at home, which always has been like in the Lane Kiffin, does it for the boosters. Mm-hmm. It's like, Will Muschamp as an underdog against a ranked team is a profitable trend. But I think that there have not, if Ray Tanner looked out there and saw a team that had quit on Will Muschamp, then you might as well just go ahead and move on.
I guess I still again, I get it all. I understand it all. Just there's something about it. It's like, it's tone deaf to me.
Okay, fair. Will Muschamp is the only coach to take South Carolina to bowl games in each of his first 3 seasons. He leaves South Carolina with a record of 28-30, including 2-5 this year. So what kind of job is South Carolina? And is Hugh Freeze the beginning? I mean, I guess these two things can go side by side, but what kind of job is South Carolina, and who are the types of candidates that are going to end up getting the attention? Who knows? South Carolina might already sort of have its idea of who they want, but from our seat right now, gosh, this is so weird. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/cover3 or on the CBS Sports app, I promise South Carolina fans, I'm not wearing this t-shirt from South Carolina from the Wounded Warriors Project in any way trying to celebrate it. This is coincidental. I put it on because it's comfortable. I just gotten out of the shower after a long walk. And now I'm talking about South Carolina moving on from its football program with the South Carolina shirt on. So who are the people that we're talking about that could step up and be in the mix for the job moving forward?
Well, I think that going back to the original question, it's an SEC job, so it's a good job. It's just, where is it in the realm of the rest of the SEC compared to other SEC gigs? And I think that the way I have to look at it is, I think we could both agree that Steve Spurrier is one of the best college football coaches of all time, right?
Yes, agree.
So Steve Spurrier at South Carolina was able to get to 3 11-win seasons in a row, but before that, there was a lot of 7-6, 7-5, 6-6 seasons, and then it finished with the 7-6, and then they were 2-4 when he stepped down in his final season. So I don't know what the ceiling is. I do think that you can win there. Steve Spurrier has shown. It's just, unless you start recruiting on a different level, then it's going to be hard to really, become the Georgia or a Florida and be a team that's consistently beating them. That said, as far as candidates, I think we all know who the number one candidate is. I've already said it. I wrote about it on Monday and the Monday after that. I said South Carolina was the job that was most likely going to be the one where Hugh Freeze ends up at if he leaves Liberty. And I know Hugh Freeze just signed a contract extension at Liberty, but well, South Carolina is paying $15 million for Will Muschamp to go away, or $13 million, I guess, because they amended the buyout. If they're willing to pay $13 million in the middle of a pandemic when they haven't been able to have fans in the stands and have lost all that revenue, I don't think that Hugh Freeze's buyout at Liberty is going to be much of an obstacle to them if that's the direction they want to go. So I think he's the number one target. I think that I don't know who would really be outside of that. I would say probably Billy Napier is a name that you'd have to consider. I mean, let's see, in South Carolina, would they want to go to Tony Elliott and take something away from in-state rival Clemson in hopes of doing that? I think there are some good candidates, and I think that if you are a coach, that South Carolina is an attractive gig. I don't know if it's a destination gig, but I think if you do well enough and if you're good enough, it could become a destination gig because, like I said, it's an SEC program. There aren't a lot of SEC jobs out there. And as you said, they've kind of stepped up and improved the facilities and stuff in recent years. You know, Will Muschamp was a part of that. So it's a nice gig if you can get it. And I don't think there's going to be a shortage of coaches who are going to be like picking up the phone if South Carolina calls.
Billy Napier was a Clemson assistant, was an Alabama assistant. He certainly has a lot of territorial advantages beyond just coming from the Sun Belt and Louisiana. You mentioned Tony Elliott. That's another good one. I feel like Barton will be here. And Barton, I know you're listening to it, but for Barton, Will Healy, the Charlotte head coach, who got Austin Peay headed in the right direction and led them to one of their most successful seasons. He is another one of those bright, energetic, new age coaches that everyone's all really excited about. So what does Will Muschamp get to fall right back into where he was last time? And he's going to be an SEC defensive coordinator and then sit around until someone needs the surefire hire, because Will Muschamp is like the NFL figure, the NFL coach of the college area of the college game in terms of retreads. Like he's just going to continue to cycle up and down.
Will Muschamp be an Alabama analyst before the season's even over?
Oh, he definitely should be. I mean, if we're talking about trying to make sure that we beat Florida, right? Yeah. I mean, South Carolina did a good job of moving the ball on Florida. I'm sure Will Muschamp's got some ideas about how to beat the Gators.
I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for Muschamp. I think that, you know, he was at Florida. It didn't work. Now he's been at South Carolina and it didn't work. It's certainly not ending the way that they wanted it to end. So, I mean, he's a name. I feel like he's probably, if he's a head coach again, it's going to be the group of five route, kind of like you've seen with, you know, Adazio and Jim McElwain and coaches like that who've had a big time shot at a big time gig, didn't do too well at it, but are still considered good enough coaches where they're going to get jobs. It's just, I don't know if there's another Power 5 program out there right now that is going to be saying, we got to go get Will Muschamp. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like we know what Will Muschamp is at this point. We've seen it. Now, maybe if you're like a bottom feeder Power 5 program and you'd like a coach to at least come in and put a foundation in to maybe improve the program and get it headed in the right direction, then yeah, Will Muschamp's probably going to be attractive. And for all intents and purposes, like I know he has a fiery demeanor on the sideline, and that, you know, like we saw it last night when he was yelling at the officials. And I know that we've made fun of him, like talking about hating nerds on this show before. But for the most part, like the people that you talk to that have worked with Will Muschamp and know Will Muschamp like Will Muschamp. So it's not like he's a bad guy. He just hasn't been a very overly successful head football coach. So I think he's going to be a defensive coordinator somewhere, probably at a Power 5 job next year, or like a highly paid analyst at a Power 5 gig. And maybe he'll sit around and see if a, you know, a head coaching job comes open that interests him, or maybe he'll just stick to being a coordinator, because, you know, you look at coaching salaries these days, Chip, being a coordinator really ain't that bad of a gig, because you can get 7 figures, especially if you've got all that head coaching stuff on your resume, 2 SEC jobs. You can get 7 figures and not be the guy everybody's mad at and calling to get fired all the time.
It's like if Vanderbilt ever opens, Vanderbilt calls Muschamp and Muschamp says no.
No, I'll just be a DC, but thank you for your interest. Here's some guys I can recommend that I know that I think would be great.
Yeah, exactly. Anything else stand out as like, what are you keeping an eye on moving forward with the Gamecocks?
What is there to keep an eye on? Who they've got left to play? They've got, let's see, this week they're playing Missouri. They've got Georgia and Kentucky. I mean, this is probably going to be a team that wins 3 games at most, and it's going to be the same with whether Muschamp had been there or not. Like, I don't think Mike Bobo is going to take the helm and be like, all right, time to turn this thing around. And that's not a knock on Bobo. It's just, I don't think the problem is Will Muschamp. I just don't think that for whatever the problem is, the team's just, well, Will Muschamp, let me rephrase that. Will Muschamp's not the only problem at South Carolina. He's one of the problems. I just don't think that team is good enough right now to really be a team that you could sit there and say, oh, it's just to change the coach, like a change of scenery type thing. If you trade a professional, like a basketball player or a baseball player, just change the coach and everything will be refreshed and everybody will feel great and everybody will go out and play their best. I still don't think that we're going to see any kind of turnaround. This is just going to be a bad season for South Carolina. And again, like that's part of the reason why I felt like the timing of it just rubs me the wrong way, because I don't think you accomplish anything. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish by doing this?
Will Muschamp actually got relieved of his duties because he changed his Twitter bio. That was actually in his social media. No, I'm just kidding.
That's probably on a message board somewhere.
Like there was a sponsorship agreement. It goes right in there with his Under Armour payout. So it's like, and you must. So Will Muschamp out at South Carolina. South Carolina immediately begins the search for a new head coach. We'll be breaking down this a lot more. And again, now it's spinning. South Carolina has entered the chat, and they are here. They are going to have a Power 5 SEC salary and a Power 5 SEC set of facilities to offer to whoever the highest and most sought-after candidate is in the coaching carousel this year. So here we go. We're off and running. We'll see what happens. You can follow him on Twitter at Tom Fornelli. You can follow me at Chip_Patterson. Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you.